Trump just had the best poll he could hope for. It's one poll. I'll show you what the polls are and why it's such a big deal. When I say it's one poll, it's polls from all the swing states. I'm going to show it up on the screen right now. I'm going to talk about why it's so significant. This is from Atlas Intel. And I'm showing you the poll right here so you can take it in. The reason why Atlas Intel is such a big deal is because this is one of the highest rating pollsters. They were incredibly accurate in 2020. In fact, they were the most accurate in 2020. And according to 538, which is it's from ABC, so a lot more left-leaning, they're A-plus pollster. And then according to Nate Silver, who's a lot more moderate, the person that I kind of trust the most in the polling, still an A. And so again, whether you're the left, right, like I think everyone can trust that this is a decent pollster as they come. And here's what's so fascinating about this. Trump leads the most in Michigan. He also is losing in North Carolina, which again, I'm not saying these polls are necessarily 100% accurate, but if they are accurate, this is what the map looks like. Is this a blowout win for Donald Trump? No, it's not, but you don't need a blowout win. You just need to win. That's all it comes down to, right? I'd prefer a blowout win, but this is what you need. And here's what I'll say. If Trump is doing better in Michigan than North Carolina, that's actually a good thing. Because I have a feeling just based on how the last elections have gone, as well as just if you've ever been in North Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. If Harris is polling better there's a good shot it still goes towards Trump. If Trump is polling well in Michigan, I just think that's a good thing for him generally. Again, if he wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, holy cow, this election is over. In addition, Atlas Intel did this is just kind of a side thing. It's not about the presidential election, but they did a polling in Michigan that was really fascinating. I'll pop it up on the screen right now. This is the Senate race in Michigan. Rogers up by 5.7. That's outside the margin of error, guys. This is probably the first poll ever where Rogers has pulled ahead. This has not been in the talk of a pickup for Republicans. If Rogers takes Michigan, and we're assuming the Republican in Montana takes it because the pollings look very good for it, that's 52 majority for Republicans in the Senate without any other pickups, which they totally could happen in other states. So that's really good news for Republicans in Michigan. A 51 majority is fine, but 52 is a lot better because, unfortunately, there are rhinos out there who will vote with Democrats from time to time. 52 is a lot better than 51, even though 51 at this point is pretty certain. So these polls look good for Donald Trump and Republicans. I have to remind you one more time, though, guys, this is why this is so significant. The polls had Biden up 8 points nationally in 2020. And that was an averaging of polls. This wasn't just one poll. This was the average. So what that's saying is that they were predicting that Joe Biden was going to get 8% more of the national vote, the popular vote, than Donald Trump. In the end, he only won by 3%. The Electoral College was razor thin, but Biden won the popular vote by about 3%. So they were off by 5%. Right now, Kamala Harris is up nationally by about 4%. So if that same disparity exists, Trump is winning the popular vote right now, let alone the Electoral College. He's winning the popular vote by 1%. Now, I have to say this, though. I don't think there's going to be that big of a disparity this year. Here's why. The disparity was even bigger in 2016 between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Everyone talked about how the polls were just so off. The polls tightened a lot in Biden. They were a lot more conservative. I think they're going to be even more conservative this year. However, there's this narrative out there. I've heard it a lot, mostly on the right, that pollsters are super biased, that they're left-leaning, and that they have this incentive to put out left-leaning polls. The reality, guys, is that's not true. There may be some liberal bias just in the techniques that they use, yes. However, at the end of the day, incentives are what matters most, and pollsters have an incentive to be accurate. And that's pretty self-explanatory, right? If you're not accurate, no one's going to trust you. That's why I'm putting so much stock, for instance, just as one member of, I guess, what you'd call alternative media, I'm putting a lot more stock in Atlas Intel and putting their name out there, which is something that they want because of the fact that they've been so accurate in the past. That's true for all pollsters. They want to be accurate, even if they're not so accurate. That's frankly one reason why this race, you're seeing a lot of really razor thin polls. They're kind of BS. And the reason why they're BS is because it's just them hedging their bets. Because, if Donald Trump wins by 2 or Harris wins by 2 and they had the polling as tied, they're like, oh, look, we were within 2. And in the polling world, that's considered pretty good. So it's really just them hedging their bets. But at the end of the day, they do have an incentive to be accurate. And so I think that they have a liberal bias and that they'll overcompensate for Harris a little bit, as they always do, but not by 5 points. I think 5 points is going to be too much, even if, though, this is the kind of the big point of today's show, even if They're only biased by 3 or 2 points. Trump will likely win. This poll is really good for Trump, especially considering voting has started in some of these key swing states. I believe Pennsylvania is about to start voting, which is huge. So for the polling to be where it is today is great. Obviously, if the momentum continues to go for Trump, we'll probably see a Trump victory. However, it is by no means enough to say he's ahead right now. But what I can say is I don't think Donald Trump is behind. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please go down below, comment, like, and subscribe, and watch another video.